I wanted to do a video today on my own 12 rules that I made for life. So I was going through these books, having recently read them, and I was going and doing something that I often do, which is to just go and review what I've already circled with a pencil. I didn't want to do a book review on these. I don't really think that I have what it takes to do it justice. I think that reading these things front to back is great for anybody. I would highly recommend either of these books. They're some of the best books that I've read in years. I think there's something in these books for everyone. And the testimonials, you can hear Jordan Peterson talk about the people that come up to him on the street and say, hey man, your book really helped me at a tough point in my life. My way of kind of showing gratitude for these books is to just do my own 12 rules, and this is what I came up with. All right, so my first one, you know, I don't want to boss anybody around here too much, but I think this is a pretty simple request. Don't spit your gum in the urinal. I was thinking about this the other day because I've seen the guy that has to clean that out of there, and I'm just thinking about who decides to spit that in there knowing that someone else has to deal with it. And I think those people have become resentful. I think that doing something like that, that small step, is you're getting yourself on a path towards being resentful, and it starts there, and next thing you know, you're peeing on the seat. You are leaving your shopping cart, you know, in the parking lot for the wind to blow into someone else's brand new car. You just get to a point where you don't care about anything besides yourself. You're not doing yourself any favors, because if you start to act like that one day, you're gonna act like that all the time, and over time, you're gonna condition your brain to think that that's okay, and no one's gonna wanna be around you. You don't wanna be that person, so don't spit your gum in the urinal, and let's try to not be resentful. All right, so for this next one, we'll go to a do. Do walk through a cemetery sometime. Preferably one that's out of town where you don't know anyone and you're just going in and sort of observing and having thoughts. And you start to notice a lot of things, and one thing that I noticed was that if you look at the gravestones, you know, these really old headstones from the 30s or the 40s, you'll realize that, you know, people used to live a lot shorter lifespan back then, but what was true then is still true now, and it's that men tend to live a shorter life than women. And so what that did for me was it made me think about my health a lot more. You know, if you're in a relationship with somebody, if you're married, someone that you plan on spending the rest of your life with, it just sort of made me start to think about, you know, do you want to leave that person alone for 7, 8, 13, 15 years because you didn't take care of yourself? For me, it was just like, okay, I need to be doing more cardio. I need to be eating more vegetables. Can I do with a couple less IPAs that week? Things like that, you know. And if you're smoking or doing things, or, you know, if you're really overweight, just sort of puts things in perspective. So go to a cemetery, walk around, and just pay attention to your thoughts. Okay, so my third rule that I came up with: if you're gonna be somebody else's billboard, write down on paper exactly why. The things that were always really perplexing to me was sort of the luxury stuff, right? The guy that owns LVMH is now the richest person in the world because everybody wants to have these status symbols. I want the right logo on my purse. For what? Everyone's reason is gonna be different, and I'm not here to judge anybody on that, but I would think that you would wanna write down exactly why and just have the conversation with yourself, right? Is it a status symbol? Who is the potential recipient of that message? Is it potential mates? Is it your parents, so you can show them that you've become successful? Is it poor people, so you can show them that somehow you're better than them? I mean, I just never understood the idea of having something so utilitarian as a bag, you know, a satchel that you put your 15 things in, and you gotta have all these logos on it to tell who what. Again, not here trying to judge people, I don't know, but I think you should know. Buy a second car, make it small and Japanese. While we're on the subject of material possessions, this might ruffle some feathers a little bit, but let's for 1 minute entertain the idea that buying a new car, an expensive car, and buying a new one every 2 or 3 years is a disease. It's an affliction, and if you can avoid that, you will be happier and financially better off. I'm not my car. Your car says nothing about you. It says nothing about your accomplishments, your character, none of that. Freeing yourself from always having to have a car payment or have a bigger car than your neighbor is liberating. I mean, if you can do that one thing and get rid of that one expense and that one need to show off in your life, I think you'll be a lot happier. Try it out. This next one might just be the most important one on here, and it's the easiest one to do. Call home and check on your boys. It doesn't even have to be your boys. You know, I thought of that because I remember seeing a fight that Paddy Pimblett did, and one of his good friends had committed suicide, you know, in the preceding days, and he was a mess, and he used his time, his octagon speech after the win to just sort of bring attention to this issue. And really, I'm not just talking about calling home on checking on your boys. Just because men are more likely to commit suicide, you know, on average, check on your girls, check on anybody you care about. Somebody might be going through a really tough time in their life, and you would have no way of knowing if you lose touch with them. I can certainly be better at this. I know there's people out there that might be watching this to say, I haven't talked to Scott in a while. Call me, I'll call you. Like, let's all just make a pact to be better at this one thing, you know, and I think that that'll do a lot of good in the world. Stop watching cable news. I stopped doing this probably close to 12 years ago now. I found that not watching cable news allowed me to scrutinize the information I was receiving better. Even written news is gonna have its bias, its hyperbole, its absolute nonsense, but I think it strengthens your bullshit detector when you have to read and think at the same time versus just passively consuming news and information. And I just think it's so much easier to slip ideology and tribalism into these cable news things. It's like you're tuning in nightly to get your talking points so you can win an argument against your brother-in-law who's a liberal or your garbage man who's a Republican or whatever. You're never gonna win an argument, and I just think cable news pumps you full of propaganda and nonsense, and when you stop watching it and then you don't watch it for a while and then you start watching it again, or you watch it at somebody's house, you will see it. It'll be so much clearer than it has ever been before. Read the news, think for yourself, you'll be so much better off. You will be so glad you did, I promise. Try to get yourself to stop arguing about basketball players on the internet. Small minds talk about people, average minds talk about events, and great minds talk about ideas. Everybody's heard that, I think. I heard another one that I really liked the other day. It was from a guy named Scott Galloway. I think he's a professor at, I want to say, NYU. But he said that your success in life is directly related to the ratio between the amount of time you spend sweating versus the amount of time you spend watching other people sweat. And I thought that was a super interesting take on what I'm trying to get at here. We all have our stupid thing, right? As Doug Stanhope would say. We all have our stupid. We sometimes know what it is. You know, for some people, I like to watch football as much as the next guy. You know, some people, I like to go hunting. Some people might say that hunting is stupid because you can just go to Wegmans and get the meat. We all have our stupid. I think we just need to pay attention to it. I would suggest meticulously keeping track of all the hours you spend on that stupid. If you're spending 8 hours a weekend, you know, watching football, and some other guys competing or some other girls competing for a promotion at work with you, and they're spending their time, you know, educating themselves, you're gonna be on your back foot. You know, I'm not gonna be Gary Vee and sit here and holler at you guys about, you know, going home and drinking 3 beers and watching the Golden State Warriors. I think that's a quote that I heard him say before that stuck in my mind, but keep track of how much time you spend on your stupid, and I can guarantee you guys one thing, the people that were arguing about being the GOAT, I can guarantee they haven't spent as much time thinking about that as some people on the internet have. LeBron, Michael Jordan, Tom Brady, Peyton, whoever. They're not worrying about it because they're out there perfecting their craft. So what are we doing with our lives arguing about this nonsense on the internet? Let's just stop doing it. Strive to be a B student with your daily habits or weekly habits and goals. You guys might have heard me talk about this before, but being a B student is a concept that was passed down to me by a mentor when I first got started, you know, right out of college. And, you know, I think that one of the things that holds us all back is a lack of discipline, and discipline to me is a function of habit. So the point of being a B student is if you say, I'm going to exercise every day this week, and you get to Monday and it's rainy and you don't feel like doing it, you don't do it, you don't get to Tuesday and then just say, I'm gonna scrap the week and just, you know, not exercise at all. If you say, I'm not gonna drink during the week, and then it gets to Wednesday and there's a happy hour and you have a couple beers, you don't need to drink Thursday and Friday because the week's over. It's okay to be a B student. Being a B student gets you by, gets you past, it gets you the degree. Try to be a B student, and I think we're all gonna have a little more discipline in our lives. We'll be that much closer to our goals, so being a B student is just fine. Try engaging in political discussions with only questions. Asking questions help you break away from your prescribed ideology. You might actually find out why someone thinks the way they do think. No one ever wins an argument in general, especially a political argument. So trying to just beat someone in submission with facts and logic, it really never works. So if you want to, never get along with anybody, then take that tack. But I've learned over the years that just asking questions, sometimes people will realize their own nonsense. Sometimes people will realize that there's inconsistencies in their own views. Just ask questions and it gets people to sort of answer the questions on their own, and you might actually learn something. This is one of my favorite ones. Talk to old people in the sauna. I love talking to old people in the sauna, and I like to talk to old people in general for two reasons. One, I know that, sometimes older people are lonely. They have this entire life that they've lived, and sometimes they don't have someone to tell their story to, and so it's really good for them. They really enjoy it, and you can't help but enjoy the conversation too when you know that someone's, lit up and really enjoying themselves. The other reason is that old people know more than we do. They have way more experience, and there's so much they can teach you. So yeah, as I mentioned before, a lot of times men die earlier than women, and so there's a lot of older ladies out there that could use someone to talk to. I'm not going to be able to talk to them in the sauna in most cases, but I would encourage anybody to talk to old people. You have something to gain from it, they have something to gain from it. It's awesome. Talk to old people, talk to them in the sauna, talk to wherever you see them. Talk to anybody you see, because you can learn something, you can brighten someone's day, and it's free. The next one, learn how to kill something and eat its body. Killing a deer with an arrow was one of the most intense recreational experiences I've ever experienced in my entire life, and I've jumped out of a plane multiple times. I understand why big tough guys cry when they shoot a deer now. It is so intense. There's so much practice and preparation and skill building that goes into doing this, and make sure you're doing it right. Taking the animal down in a very quick, very humane way. You're so close to the animal, it's so intimate. There's so much responsibility that you take on, to deliver that animal, to harvest that animal in a humane way. It's very, very heavy, intense experience, and it's not for everybody. I have never at the same time experienced such emotions such as sadness, happiness, a sense of accomplishment, and a sense of gratitude all at the same time. It's absolutely out of this world if you've never experienced anything like that. That meat will taste better than any meat you've ever had. If you knew that thing, if you looked that thing in its eyes, and you want to make sure you get every single morsel of meat off that bone and just honor the animal, it is a really, really intense, rewarding, growth-enhancing experience. So kill something and eat it. Allow yourself to suck at something you were once good at, or just to be mediocre at that thing. A lot of people will never be as good at something as they once were, whether it's a sport, playing an instrument, and they just want to never do it again. For me, when I play a sport that I used to play, it brings back all the joy, all the memories, but it also reminds me of all the lessons I learned. Sports is a great example where you're just learning about how to put in the work. You're learning about teamwork. You're learning about being a part of something where everyone has a specific role, and yet everyone's working and doing their job towards the same goal, which is to win, right? You have, for lacrosse, for example, some of the guys are throwing the ball in the goal and they're the ones getting their name in the newspaper, but there's no way we would have won that game if the defenseman hadn't made a great play or the goalie hadn't made a great save. I think recalling all these lessons will allow you to recreate that process when you're learning a new skill in life, no matter what it is, whether you're getting a new job, working for a new organization, volunteering for a new charity. You're learning lessons that you've already learned before, and I think that sort of going through the motions at least, getting the exercise and just recreating the joy and the lessons learned is something that we could all benefit a lot from. Alright guys, thanks for watching. That concludes my 12 rules for life. If you haven't read these books by Jordan Peterson, I would highly recommend it. His are way more well thought out and well researched than mine will ever be, but I think that one of the best things that happened to me was just sort of figuring out how to use these little metaphors to teach myself in life, and so I would recommend these books to anybody. Please get them, please read them. I promise you'll learn at least one thing. I hope you learned at least one thing from this video. And if you like content like this, please like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Peace.